teacher immunited a Autistic son. Mylin Trend overheard a maid teaching her autistic son 9 languages. Her life changed forever. "Why are you talking to my son?" Elizabeth Harper's icy voice echoed in the marble foyer of her $50 million zero-cents mansion. At 40, heir to a tech empire, she sneered at the scene. A black woman in a green apron sat on the floor beside her 8-year-old autistic son. Mylin Trend, 32, calmly stood, organizing cleaning supplies. 3 months here, she was invisible, silent. No one knew that nightly, in her dim apartment, she reviewed old lectures, tears falling, missing the university stage. No one knew she was once a linguistics professor at 3 universities before losing everything and taking any job to pay her mother's hospital bills. "Sorry, Mrs. Harper, I just..." "Just what?" Elizabeth cut in, heels clicking like hammers. "Liam hasn't spoken to anyone in 2 years. Not anyone." "What are you doing to his mind?" Liam, on the floor with a picture book, his blue eyes lit up in a way Mylin recognized. Not disability, but pure intelligence awaiting the right key. She'd seen that look in a student once. A boy called Useless, who later won an international scholarship through her methods. "I was just cleaning, he came to me," Mylin half-lied. In truth, for weeks she noticed Liam respond when she muttered multilingual words while working. First French, then Spanish, until yesterday he whispered his first word in months. "Hola." Elizabeth snatched the book from her son. "An Italian one." "Where'd this come from?" "The library, ma'am. I was organizing and..." "And you used my son as a guinea pig?" Elizabeth's eyes blazed. "He's severely autistic, nonverbal, non-interactive, unteachable. 3 top national experts confirmed it. She'd spent millions on failed therapies, only to hear Liam would always be a burden." Mylin's chest burned. Not anger, but empathy. She'd seen that look in dozens of children labeled hopeless by those blind to their own limits. "Mrs. Harper," Mylin said calmly, "sometimes children just need to be heard in a language they understand." Elizabeth scoffed. "You, a cleaner, teaching me about my son, a child you've known 3 months?" "Not teaching," Mylin replied, kneeling beside Liam, "just possibility." Then it happened. Liam looked up, locked eyes with Mylin, and whispered, stunning Elizabeth, "Merci, madame." Silence rang like tinnitus. Elizabeth blinked, disbelieving. "He spoke French?" Mylin nodded, eyes bright with restrained joy. "Kids like Liam aren't broken, Mrs. Harper. They just speak a different language." In that moment, she recalled the first time an autistic child held her hand, said "thank you" in German, and that victory surged again. Elizabeth looked at her son, then Mylin, then Liam, now flipping the Italian book with genuine interest. For the first time in 2 years, his eyes had life. "How'd you know?" Elizabeth whispered, pride briefly fading. Mylin smiled, not triumphant, but like one holding a secret too powerful to reveal early. "I've been on the other side of this conversation. In the cold foyer of a mansion where money bought everything but understanding, a despised woman planted the seed for an unimaginable revolution. But Elizabeth, still skeptical, vowed to investigate Mylin's past, determined not to let a stranger easily enter her son's world. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who should have respected you, you know the greatest revenge is proving your worth. Follow to discover how a simple maid not only changed a child's life, but rewrote the rules of a family that believed money could buy every solution. The next morning, Elizabeth summoned Mylin to her private office, walls adorned with contracts and charity photos like moral medals. "We need to clear some things," Elizabeth began, not offering a seat. "Yesterday was a fluke. Liam randomly vocalizes sometimes. It means nothing." Mylin stood, hands clasped. "I understand, ma'am. I want you to stay away from him. No interaction." Elizabeth paused, her disdain growing. "In fact, focus on the basement and service areas. Housekeeper Huang will handle Liam's spaces." If only she knew, Mylin thought, knew I hold a PhD in applied linguistics from Yale, specializing in cognitive development and multilingualism in neurodivergent children, with 17 published papers in international journals. "Yes, Mrs. Harper, just cleaning." But Elizabeth wasn't done. "And by the way," she leaned back, a cruel smile, "don't delude yourself about yesterday. Liam's severely autistic. 3 top neurologists confirmed it. He won't improve, won't speak normally, won't have a normal life. Each word salted Mai Lin's wounds, recalling days of being fired, called a failure by old colleagues. Each word stabbed, but she stayed composed. Inside, she thought of 43 hopeless children now in college, speaking multiple languages with brilliant careers. "I understand your concerns," she replied. "Concerns?" Elizabeth sneered. "Not concerns, facts. And I don't want my son experimented on by someone unqualified." But deep down, Elizabeth felt a flicker of unease. If Mai Lin was right, she'd been horribly wrong about her son for years. That afternoon, while organizing the basement, Mai Lin heard footsteps. Dr. Hun Nguyen, the family's private physician, approached, pensive. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, checking for eavesdroppers. "We need to talk about Liam." Mai Lin paused. "What's wrong?" "The opposite. Yesterday, when he spoke French, it was his first spontaneous verbal communication in 2 years. Dr. Hung lowered his voice. "I've been a doctor 20 years. I know when a child responds to specific stimuli versus random vocalization." Mai Lin's heart raced. "What do you think happened?" "Do you have training in special education?" For a moment, Mai Lin hesitated. The truth could change or ruin everything. She recalled being falsely accused by a colleague, losing her job, and the fear of betrayal resurfaced. She studied him for trustworthiness. "Dr. Hung, if I said I have a PhD in applied linguistics, specializing in child cognitive development for 5 years, what would you do with that?" Charged silence. Dr. Hung blinked, processing. "You have a PhD?" "Yale. Dissertation on multilingualism in neurodivergent kids. 17 international papers." "My God." He sat on a nearby crate. "Why is a linguistics PhD working as a maid?" Mai Lin took a deep breath. "Life, doctor. Lost my university job when my mom got sick. Needed fast money for treatment. That was a year ago." She didn't mention nearly giving up, standing on the edge, thinking her dreams were gone. Dr. Hung shook his head, absorbing it. "And Liam, you think you can help him?" "Don't think." "No. He's not as severely autistic as diagnosed. He has autistic traits, yes, but mostly selective mutism with high auditory sensitivity. His mother treats him as broken, so he's completely withdrawn." "How do you know?" 43 similar cases." "Doctor? Over 5 years, I worked with 43 kids with similar diagnoses. Now 38 speak multiple languages fluently, live normally." Dr. Hung was silent long. "Liam has an appointment tomorrow. Elizabeth wants to increase his meds. Says he's regressing, delusional. Not regressing, progressing. First time in 2 years, he's found a meaningful way to communicate." "I know." Dr. Hung handed her a card. "My private number. If you're willing to help him, I'll find a way to support medically, but discreetly." Mai Lin took the card, hand trembling, knowing this was her last chance to reclaim herself, but also her greatest risk. After he left, she held the card in the basement. For the first time in months, a plan formed. That night, while Elizabeth dined with friends at the club, Mai Lin did something she hadn't in 2 years. She called her old university, linguistics department, Professor Min Pham. "This is Mai Lin Tran." Long silence. "Mai Lin, where are you? Your research was cited in 3 international journals this month. Stanford's been looking for you for 6 months. I'm in a temporary situation, need a favor. I need my research files, especially the selective mutism intervention protocol." She didn't say each word felt like tearing open old pain. When she was forced out of academia by a jealous rival's lies. An hour later, she hung up with something she hadn't felt in ages. Hope. Min would discreetly send everything she needed to build Liam's program. But she didn't know Huang, the housekeeper, overheard part of the call from upstairs, and by morning it would reach Elizabeth. In Liam's room, he flipped through a book found under his bed, an animal book with names in 6 languages, left intentionally by a former professor. "Catchet gato cat," he whispered, each word like music to his ears. Because sometimes the greatest revolution doesn't start with confrontation, but with whispers in the dark. unlikely alliances, and the patience of someone who knows the biggest storm follows the deepest calm. But somewhere in the shadows, Elizabeth had hired a private investigator to dig into Mai Lin's past, determined to find any flaw to protect her son and her reputation. The next morning, Huang knocked on Elizabeth's office, urgency mixed with glee. "Mrs. Harper, about the maid." Elizabeth looked up from financial reports, annoyed. "What now, Huang? Last night I heard her on the phone, talking about university research, academic papers." Huang paused dramatically. "She mentioned being a PhD." Elizabeth blinked, processing. "PhD Mai Lin? Yes, ma'am. Also something about over 40 kids like Liam. I think she's lying to get to him." Elizabeth's mind spun. A maid teaching languages, discussing academic research, making Liam speak. Pieces clicked ominously, and the investigator's report that morning confirmed. Mai Lin Tran was a real PhD, but once falsely accused of plagiarism, a scandal that cost her everything. "Get her here now." 15 minutes later, Mai Lin entered, facing Elizabeth behind her desk, laptop open, expression unprecedented. "Sit," Elizabeth said, voice glacial. Mai Lin obeyed, maintaining practiced calm. "You lied to me," Elizabeth began, turning the laptop. The screen showed Dr. Mai Lin Plan's profile, listing impressive papers and awards. Below, an old article falsely accusing her of plagiarism, though she'd been fully exonerated. "I never lied, Mrs. Harper. I just didn't share what you didn't ask." "Didn't ask?" Elizabeth slammed the desk. "You let me think you were an uneducated cleaner when you're a PhD in linguistics, specializing in autistic kids, and you were accused of plagiarism, disgracing a university." "Does that matter?" Mai Lin asked, still calm. "From day one, you made it clear I was invisible. My job was to clean, not speak, that someone like me had no value. As for the accusation, I was cleared, but you wouldn't care about the truth, would you?" Elizabeth felt unease stir. "That's beside the point. You should have disclosed your credentials." "For what? So you could insult me more creatively, say that even with a PhD I'm still just a maid?" But inside, Mai Lin trembled, knowing if Elizabeth dug deeper, she could lose her chance to help Liam and herself. The door burst open. Liam ran in, followed by Dr. Hung. Mai Lin, he shouted in Portuguese, then switched to French. "J'ai joué une belle chanson." Then Spanish. "Puede chansonar más palabras." Elizabeth froze. Her son, silent for 2 years, just switched 3 languages fluently in one sentence. Dr. Hung stepped forward, calm. "Elizabeth, you need to see this." He placed a tablet on the desk, showing videos of Liam's progress over days, recorded discreetly by Mai Lin under his medical oversight. Video 1, Liam counting to 10 in German. Video 2, reciting the Mandarin alphabet. Video 3, singing an Arabic folk song. 7 languages, Dr. Hung continued. In 3 weeks, Liam's not just speaking but grasping complex grammar. His cognitive ability is extraordinary. Elizabeth looked at her son Mai Lin, then the videos. "How? How's this possible?" "Because he was never severely autistic," Mai Lin said, kneeling beside Liam, "and has selective mutism from trauma and emotional isolation. Given a safe environment and meaningful communication, he naturally bloomed." Liam turned to his mother, meeting her eyes for the first time in 2 years. "Mom," he said in English, "Mai Lin says I'm smart." Then in Italian, "Mi ha insegnato che posso parlare po' de voglio." Elizabeth's eyes stung. Her son, whom she'd protected like fragile glass, spoke with fluency unseen in peers. "Liam," she whispered, kneeling too, you could always talk." "Yes, Mom, but you were always sad when I tried, so I stopped." He switched to French. "Mais Liam m'ont écouté. Elas compra." Heavy silence. Elizabeth looked at Mai Lin, who watched with no triumph, only deep sadness. "I didn't know," Elizabeth murmured. "Truly didn't know." "I know you didn't," Mai Lin replied softly. "But now you do. The question is, what will you do with this?" Dr. Hung touched Elizabeth's shoulder. "Liam needs to continue with Mai Lin. His progress is remarkable, but stopping now would be disastrous." Elizabeth looked at her son, playing with blocks and counting in Japanese, then at Mai Lin, who'd changed her home without her noticing. "I owe you an apology," Elizabeth said, voice breaking. "And I beg you to stay, not as a maid, but as Liam's teacher, who gave me back my son." Mai Lin smiled, not victorious, but like one who finally saw a child as they are. "I'll stay, but on one condition. Liam isn't a miracle or success story. He's just a brilliant child who needs to be loved for who he is, not what he does." As Elizabeth nodded, finally understanding, Liam stepped forward, holding both women's hands. "Mom, Mai Lin," he said in Portuguese. "Now we're a real family." In that moment, 3 lives changed forever, proving sometimes the greatest revolution happens not in courtrooms or headlines, but in a child's quiet voice and a mother's heart learning to listen. 6 months later, the Harper mansion transformed. Once cold, it now brimmed with laughter, multilingual chatter, and above all, Liam's voice echoing through halls. "Mom, I learned a new Swedish word today," Liam shouted, running to his mother, now working on her laptop on the porch. "Karlik means love." Elizabeth smiled, a genuine warmth rare before Mai Lin. "He's filming a new video for the channel," Liam replied excitedly, switching to Spanish. "We got more students today." The YouTube channel Learn with Liam became a global sensation. In 4 months, over 2 million followed Mai Lin's lessons, where she taught language development techniques using Liam as an inspiring example. Donations and educational partnerships raised over $600,000, 0 cents for Elizabeth's fund for neurodivergent kids. But the channel's success was just the start. Stanford, MIT, and Yale competed to hire Mai Lin as a full professor. 3 publishers vied for her book, The Language of the Heart, Multilingualism Transforms Special Children, a bestseller before release. Dr. Tran, Elizabeth said that afternoon, proudly using the title. "The fund got 5 more proposals from public schools wanting your method." Mai Lin, now in elegant clothes Elizabeth insisted on buying, smiled while organizing teaching materials. 15 schools in 6 months. Unimaginable we'd reached this far. "And Huang?" Elizabeth asked, referencing the housekeeper fired for trying to sabotage Mai Lin with malicious rumors. "Still jobless, I hear. Seems elite families don't hire those who gossip about employers online," Mai Lin replied without malice. "Karma has its own schedule." Dr. Hung appeared on the balcony, holding a thick file. "Ladies, great news. Your paper's accepted in Nature. Plus, the American Pediatric Association wants you to present your method at their national conference." Elizabeth took a deep breath, watching her son play in the garden, chatting fluently in German with the gardener. 6 months ago, she thought Liam would never be normal. Now, he's surpassed most peers. "You know what impresses me most?" Elizabeth said, turning to Mai Lin. "Not just the languages or academic success, but Liam finally has light in his eyes. He's happy." Mai Lin nodded. "Kids like Liam don't need fixing, Elizabeth. They just need understanding." That evening at dinner, Liam announced something special. "Mom, Professor Mai Lin, I wrote a thank you letter. Can I read it?" The women exchanged curious glances. "Dear Mom and dear Professor Mai Lin," Liam began, voice clear, confident. "Before, I was trapped in a glass box. I saw everything, but no one heard me. Professor Mai Lin didn't break the box. She taught me there was no box. And Mom, thank you for letting her show me I was always perfect as me." Elizabeth couldn't hold back tears. Neither could Mai Lin. 3 months later, Mai Lin stood on the main stage of the International Special Education Conference before 5,000 global educators. Liam, now 8, stood beside her as co-speaker. "I'm Liam Harper," he said into the mic, voice ringing through the hall. "A year ago, doctors said I'd never speak normally. Now I speak 9 languages because one woman believed I had a voice from day one. She just taught me how to use it." The audience rose, applauding like thunder. Elizabeth, watching from the front row, saw tears in the eyes of hundreds of teachers, parents, therapists. It was living proof that labeling kids limited is often the biggest limit we place on them. When Mai Lin took the mic, her voice was steady. "A year ago, I was invisible in this society. Today I'm here not because I changed, but because someone finally saw me." The same happened with Liam. He always had this ability, I just created a safe space for it to bloom. Post-conference, a journalist asked, Dr. Tran, when did you know Liam was special? Mylin smiled, hand on his shoulder. The first day, he looked into my eyes. Every child is special. Some just need a different language to show their magic. Today, 2 years later, the Liam Mylin Foundation has transformed over 10,000 children's lives across America. Elizabeth became a passionate advocate for inclusive education, and Mylin proved that sometimes the greatest revenge against prejudice isn't destroying those who belittle you, but building something beautiful, impactful, forcing them to acknowledge your greatness. If this story of overcoming and recognition touched your heart, follow for more stories reminding us that a person's true worth isn't measured by skin, clothes, or job, but by the difference they make in others' lives.